Welcome to Raging Bullets 335, Pop Culture and Whatnot, Episode 2. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensational, superior sensei of the Whatnot Segulent, and the Duke of You Know.
How's it going, eh?
Jim, on this episode, we're going to do a quick little chat in the beginning, a little comic chat, where we're going to discuss Amazing Spider-Man number 700 and Avenging Spider-Man 15.1. So that's going to be spoilery for anybody that hasn't read those. You're going to want to watch the beginning of our discussion topic. It's about the first 15 minutes of the show. We also talk about the comic book fracture. Our main topic on this one, though, is going to be gaming. We're both gaming fans, and we're using these shows, these pop culture and whatnot episodes, once a month as a bonus show to talk about some topics that are a little outside of our DC Comics love, just to kind of round off the podcast each month. So hope you guys are enjoying these. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. I want to give a quick shout out to show sponsors DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. DCBService.com is your comic book pre-order source. This is that time of the month where they're getting ready to start shifting over to the brand new books, the brand new deals for the coming month. I want to remind you they're also a Comixology digital partner. What that means is when you do any of your digital purchases over there, you earn 5% of those purchases towards any purchase from DCBService.com. It doesn't cost you any more money to do that, but it does support a show sponsor. So please go over to our website and click on the link and head on over there and do some of your digital purchasing right from their website. Thank you so much. And InStockTrades.com. They are your comic book collected edition source. Hardcovers, trades, anything you're looking for. Remember, orders of $50 or more give you free shipping. They're constantly running monthly deals exclusive to that month. So go over there and check and see what you can save money on this month. Jim, what kind of a podcast are we?
Well, Pop Culture and Whatnot, a division of Raging Bullets, is a spoiler podcast. We will go in depth with some spoilers on some comic books, going into that other company known as Marvel, as well as some very nice indie titles. And then later on, our discussion heads into the gaming world. So you may want to check our subject matter. This way we don't ruin anything for anybody, because, hey, let's all enjoy the show.
Nothing like the handy-dandy electro claw for carving through metal doors.
Jim, one of the books that's come out recently has been Amazing Spider-Man number 700. And I don't know if you heard anything about... I know you don't read Amazing Spider-Man. Have you heard anything about what's been happening with the character or the storyline?
Well, anytime anything is involving a comic book, I will get roughly between... a dozen to 24 people. Hey, did you hear about? Hey, did you hear about? Hey, I'm like, yeah, I heard about it. Yeah, I heard about it. No, other company. No, that's Marvel. I'm DC guy. And it's so I've got enough of people just sending me a blurb about it, but I haven't actually read the issue. I don't know the full details behind it or everything that's going on. I don't know the whatnot behind it, but I know what's going on.
Well, let's talk about it, because I did read the issues,
Sure.
And they're really good. I'm a casual Spider-Man reader, and I'm actually more of a diehard Spider-Man fan, but because of the nature of our show, a lot of my focus tends to be on DC stuff preparing for our podcast. So I collect Spider-Man and a lot of Marvel comics that I've enjoyed, and I read them as we have time. I either collect some of them in trades, some in singles, but Spidey's always been a character I've had a soft spot for. And Dan Slott wrote the issue, Amazing Spider-Man number 700. I'm actually going to talk kind of casually about Avenging Spider-Man 15.1, which was an issue that's very heavily tied into this. The basic premise was, using this machine, Spider-Man, Peter Parker, and Doc Ock, bodies have been switched. Or their minds are switched, I guess is the best way to say it. So Peter Parker's consciousness was in Doc Ock's dying body, and Doc Ock's consciousness was in Peter Parker's. So Peter Parker was in this dying body trying to, beat Doc Ock, who was posing as Spider-Man. In the end result of the issue, and I'm just going to cut to the chase, Peter Parker dies in Doc Ock's body. So Peter Parker's dead. Doc Ock is Spider-Man. What happened was, though, when that was happening, needless to say, Peter was trying to get back into his own body. The machine that caused the transfer, it had like this malfunctioning thing happen where it didn't give Peter Parker's consciousness back to his body completely, but all of his memories shot through Doc Ock. So what happened was you got this guy who was a villain, who now is heavily influenced by Uncle Ben, everything that like made Peter Parker, all of the trauma, all the dark things that he went through as Spider-Man. And yet he's still Doc Ock with his kind of pompous air of superiority, like, I've got a better and best. So now his motivation is he wants to be a better Peter Parker, a better Spider-Man than Spider-Man was, knowing everything that Spider-Man did. He also, though, has like certain emotions, like Mary Jane, he's got a thing for. He wants to keep her away because he knows that Mary Jane knows Peter Parker better than anybody. But because he's got a thing for her now, he can't. So they have this like little relationship that's developing between the two of them, which I think is a neat little twist. So I'm into the whole thing. Like they're actually with 700. That's the last issue of Amazing Spider-Man. They're from this launching Superior Spider-Man, and Doc Ock's already made little tweaks in the 15.1. He made little tweaks to the Spider-Man costume, to kind of customize it, make it Doc Ocky. He doesn't like arms and everything, but I mean, he's made like little improvements to it, to the goggles, and then to the gloves and the boots and stuff like that. It's distinctly Spider-Man still, but they're cool little tweaks that make it Doc Ock like. I mean, do I have any... Peter Parker is some way, shape, or form is probably going to come back at some point. I mean, it's comics, right? That's the way it works. But I'm assuming they're going to give a decent run to this Doc Ock version of him. And I was really into it. Well, especially with the whole premise that... Because I could see them running with it for a long time with him being so heavily influenced by Peter Parker's genuine memories. So, he's been hit by all that. So it's not Doc Ock as we traditionally know. I like the twist. I really liked the twist. He went to his old lab, for example, and when he went into his old lab, obviously he's in Spider-Man's body, so all of the defenses aren't going to recognize him as being Doc Ock. They're going to recognize him as being Spider-Man and start attacking. So it was like this whole neat thing where he went to his lab to get like the equipment to make himself into a better Spider-Man and do all this other cool thing. It's issue 1 of Superior Spider-Man. The next one's coming out. It's part of this whole Marvel Now initiative that they're doing, which there's a number of books I'm really into with that. And it's just kind of a neat little thing. I just thought, like, as an aside, just to talk about, because I really do enjoy Marvel Comics, I thought it would be neat to shout this out because it's a huge event that was happening. I really enjoyed it. I thought the issue was incredibly well written. Like, the part where Peter died, like, that needed to have, like, an emotional resonance. I was, like, choked up, and it's one of those things where in comics... there's been a handful of character deaths that have actually felt that way to me, like they felt like something that mattered. This one felt like I'm like, they're really doing this. And I don't have any problem with the possibility of which I think is going to be a definite at some point. Peter Parker is going to come back, but it felt like something that was final for now. And I guess that makes a big difference to me, where it feels like they're doing this, and it's not like 2 months from now we're going to have Peter back all of a sudden. Because of the way that they, I think, put all his memories into Doc Ock, it made it feel more final to me. And I don't know, it was kind of neat. It was a cool little thing, and I'm definitely going to be reading Superior Spider-Man #1 when it comes out, because I'm into the whole thing. Which, when they do these events, that should be the point, right? It's supposed to draw you in and get you interested to keep reading. So now this book, which I was already into. I was into Spider-Man. But it's, like I said, I've been more casual with it. Now this book's jumping up the stack where, like, the next issue, I'm going to want to read it because I thought these 2 issues, this 15.1 and the Spider-Man 700, were really a home run. They got me into, like, reading this book, like, top of the stack again.
See, now, here's the thing with me and the whole Marvel universe. I get confused because I'm not reading it. I'm not reading any Marvel titles. And so I don't know... what is Marvel main continuity? What's that Ultimate line? And I didn't know if this Marvel Now is this all one continuity? Are these alternate Earths or whatnot?
Think of it like what DC's doing with the New 52. Let me clarify that. They're not doing it the exact way that DC's doing with the New 52, but that's being done to their current continuity. So this Doc Ock stuff that I'm telling you, that's not Ultimate line.
Okay, that is the current Marvel line. Peter Parker is dead. So in all of the Spider-Man books,
it's Doc Ock.
It's going to be Doc Ock. Okay, yeah. That was the thing I was wondering. Because when I read the news articles, and I'm like, I'm like, wait, that's issue 700. That's not a brand new line, but I knew they're doing the now, and I'm like, so I was kind of curious about that. So that's actually kind of neat. I'm glad they're making a commitment like that. To me, it's if you're going to go big, go home. Go big or go home. They're doing it here. Killing off Peter Parker's huge.
You're going to go big, go home.
Go big or go home, okay, is what I meant.
It's like, what does that even mean? That's great.
I forgot an or.
In the Ultimate line, it's actually funny. Across Marvel, I guess Marvel Adventures is the only way you can actually read Peter Parker anymore. Because in the Ultimate line, it's not Peter Parker as Spider-Man.
Kid, right?
Yeah, well, I've been reading Ultimate Spider-Man monthly. And I really like that book a lot. So it's neat because I'm very into the whole Spider-Man thing. And it's funny. I'm a huge Peter Parker fan. So I want to, I grew up loving this guy. For all the love I do on the show about Batman, Spider-Man was the other guy that I loved him on the Electric Company. I loved him in the Spider-Man cartoon, Spider-Man. That was, who didn't watch that when we were kids? So, and then Spider-Man is Amazing Friends and stuff like that. And then Marvel Team Up was one of those comics. As a kid, I always read Marvel Team Up because it was Spider-Man and another hero. So you got a great Spider-Man fix, but you also got to really know the Marvel Universe, as much as I loved Brave and the Bold. Yeah. So these were books growing up that were very important to me because I got a big bang of reading just a lot of different characters. So when Peter Parker died, I was like, whoa, this is a character who was pretty important to me. And I just thought they handled it really, really well. I thought it was really cool. But not only that, they got a reader in me because I got to admit, I bumped it up my stack and jumped ahead of where I'm currently at in Spider-Man because I wanted to read the big brouhaha, the story that everyone's talking about. So I figured, let me check it out and see what's going on. So I read those 2 particular issues, and it gave me enough. I didn't feel like I was lost. So I really thought they did a good job in both with recognizing that it's going to be readers reading it who are longtime fans. So there was a lot of stuff in there, obviously, that was, resonating with them. But people like me who've been casual, who maybe are a little behind on the book, just getting them up to speed on what's been going on with the 2 characters, making you care about both, which that was the tricky thing. They had to make me care about Doc Ock as Spider-Man in a very short stretch, and they did it. So I'm into the whole thing, and I'm definitely going to be reading Superior Spider-Man when it kicks off. I'm really excited for it. So it's got. I just wanted to shout it out. Another comic, if I could, that I'd like to shout out from Action Labs Entertainment, Fracture. And this was one that Jamal, when we had him on talking about Molly Danger, was shouting out some of the Action Lab output. And one of the names that he mentioned that was associated was Chad Ciccone, who I've met Chad at a number of conventions. He was a listener of the show casually, and we just, became friends and started chatting. I didn't know that Chad did Fracture until Jamal was mentioning it. So needless to say, when I hear somebody who, has been good to us is doing a comic, I end up reading it. And I'm shouting this out. I ended up buying it in the PDF version because from their website you can buy it in PDF format. But they just recently got a deal going with Comixology, where all of their output is being put on Comixology now. And Fracture was one of those. And I liked it so much that I ended up grabbing it again in Comixology just because I wanted to support it. It was also a way to support our show sponsor, because they got that deal with the Comixology app and stuff like that. So I bought it through DCB Services' website, so I didn't pay anymore, but it supports them. I want to shout out this comic, though, because the premise is neat. Imagine a multiple personality disorder where you're not aware of the other personalities. One of them is the greatest villain in the world. The other is the greatest hero in the world. The greatest villain in the world is going after the greatest hero in the world's family. The family you didn't know that you had. So this guy's starting to discover, wait a minute, not only am I the villain, but I'm also the hero. So he's mortified that he's, the villain trying to kill the hero, but also finds out that he is, in fact, the hero. Neither of them are aware of each other. That's the premise of Fracture.
Wow. And that is cool.
It is as cool and deep as you think. Because imagine waking up in the morning and finding, evidence that you're this villain, And how you would deal with that. But then finding out the other twist is you're trying to kill yourself.
Yeah.
But also dealing with the fact that full well that neither of those personalities are aware of each other or you. So what do you do to deal with that situation and to make that work. That's the whole premise of the whole thing. I don't want to go... It's 3 issues, and it's cool enough they're doing a second season of it. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to ruin it for everybody.
Right.
I think that tease is enough to get people to say, wow, I want to check this out. And I'll put links in the show notes to it. I just thought it was a really, really cool indie book. I'm not shouting it out just because of Chad. I'm shouting out because I've really enjoyed it. And I want to do this more with this episode where I just want to do like quick shots to certain things like, the Mart, like I do with Spider-Man with this. Just be able to shout out some things that we don't normally get to talk about on our show really quick and let people know about them, that there were things that I thought were cool. So I wanted to start off with that. It actually wasn't the main topic of this episode. We're going to talk about gaming, which is what we were originally going to go to. But there were 2 things that I thought kicking off this show we should really discuss because I thought they were. I read them recently, and I thought they were really, really cool. So I just wanted to shout them out.
Actually, hey, let me throw out something as well.
Please.
Because our first episode, we talked Walking Dead and zombies and whatnot. And I picked up and read a couple of the hardcover collected trades of those. And holy crud, is this really cool. This is, I'm right now through Volume 2, about to start Volume 3. And I read, and it was funny because I'm going through, and I read Volume 1 before in series of the non-large trade, the trade paperback versions. So I kind of knew the stories from Volume 1, from Book 1 of the hardcover collector edition, and so going back and rereading it, I was like, oh yeah, and then it started refreshing memory. Then I jumped into Volume 2, and I'm like, oh my god, this is, if you're just a fan of the TV show, this is something you got to read. And if you're not sure about the zombie mythos or the zombie thing, this is just a really cool, gritty, dark book about human nature, and it's not just about the zombie apocalypse. It really starts going into the fall of man and what we would the horrific things we would do to each other if we were faced with this type of chaos, this type of apocalyptic surroundings. Just how nasty we are capable of it, but there's also these moments of humanity in there, and it's a really cool story that I'm really glad I'm picking this stuff up, and I'm going through all the trades as well. It's a definite must read.
I really like in the series that, very similar to the TV show, I don't know what's going to happen, because I like that they aren't like beholden to each other. Thematically they are, and like the main story's progressing in a very similar fashion. So there's that connection, which I really like, and it feels very much like it's the same material, but you don't know who's going to live or who's going to die, because the cast isn't necessarily stuck to each other. And that's the part that I really enjoy about reading them both, is you get everything you're saying. It's a great compliment to each other to be able to read both of them, but you don't feel like you're reading the same thing you just saw on television. Yeah. Or you're watching on television the same thing you just read, because you have no clue who's going to live and who's going to die. It's really true survival horror in comic book and television form for that reason. I know we discussed that previously. I'm glad you shouted that out, because those hardcovers are really well produced.
Yeah.
And I really like I think that to me is a great format, because it's a year's worth of comics collected in a really nice, sharp-looking volume. And I really, out of all the collected editions, it's on my short list of ones that I just think there's something about the high-quality pages and that collected format that Walking Dead just seems to really work that way. So if you're not reading the series, I can't recommend those hardcovers enough, because it's really a special way to read it. And like I said, you're getting a year's worth of comics. And that book really reads well in 12 issues, in 12-issue sittings.
Yes, and it was funny. I sat down and I read one of those volumes cover to cover. Mm-hmm. And that's a year's worth of reading in a single sitting. I kept going. I couldn't stop. And I look at the clock. I'm like, oh my god, it's like 2 a.m. I better go to bed. But which made for very interesting sleeping after reading all of that. But I made it through the night.
Jim, our main topic this episode, we want to talk a little bit about gaming. And we've had discussions on Raging Bullets before relating to DC games, which led to this. We did, especially when the DC MMO was coming out, you and I did some big discussions about our relationship with titles like City of Heroes. I've been a gamer since I was a little kid. Ever since there were first video games, I loved the whole concept. We had a game room that was at Shoregate Shopping Center. Do you remember Game Trek? Did you go there?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that.
It was this. It was a classic game room. It had like neon lights and stuff, and they had one at Euclid Square Mall. It wasn't Game Trek, but they had another game room up there. So we grew up with the old game room concept. It was really before the home console thing had really taken off. And I remember things like Jungle Hunt, Jungle King, stuff like that I loved playing. Journey. Remember the Journey arcade game for the...
Oh, God. That used to annoy me because I always messed up, and I couldn't do it.
But then the Atari 2600 kicked in, and there was home console. Well, Pong kicked in. I had Pong, and I had the Atari 2600 and home consoles. Flash to today, though, I'm still into gaming. And one of the things that I think tends to be a priority for me, and this goes back to a lot of my PC gaming growing up, I really like games with strong gameplay and a good story. So role-playing games tend to be a thing for me. I really like things that immerse me into a story. And we liked City of Heroes because you got to live in Paragon City and do this superhero thing. Any of the criticisms that we had were things like, as a hero, should you really be encouraged when you hit a certain level to say, these people matter no more? There was certain crimes you would run away from. But I loved the whole world of City of Heroes because if you were in the part of the city that was at your level, you really felt like you were doing some serious superheroing. The game recently ended, and there was like this big swelling of fan support, which I think is great. You're part of this community for many years, and there was this fan swelling of support for it. I got to admit, I had walked away when I hit my level 50. I had gone on to other games, and I hadn't been playing that much because I'd been on it since the beta, way back in the beginning, because I was into the whole thing. And after a number of years with it, I just kind of like drifted off. You had the same problem, and you started playing games like Champions Online now. Like, what are you doing gaming-wise now? I'd like to fish it over to you. Like, what is your gaming background, and what are you doing gaming-wise now? Because City of Heroes is gone. Let's talk a little bit about where we're at, what we're playing gaming-wise. What are we digging now that we don't play things like City of Heroes anymore?
Well, gaming background is the arcades like you, and you used to go with my two brothers. We'd go up to the mall mostly, and especially on they used to do a Saturday freebie where when the guy first turns on the machines, he'd set it up so there was a free game. So you'd run up there and you'd be the first one waiting in line. You'd get in there and you'd play one free game, and then you'd drop a couple more quarters and hang out and play different games and whatnot. And then home console system, kind of like you as well. And then it was weird because once I started getting older, I kind of drifted from games. And I wasn't as game-centric. Someone would have something like, oh, okay, sure, I'll jump on Sega or jump on a Nintendo if I was over somebody's house. But it was never a prime focus. So when, like City of Heroes came out, you were playing for like over a year before I even tried it. And you're like, dude, this is a great superhero game. You got to play it. And so I jumped on it, and I was hooked. And I was like all in once again back into the gaming system, and just it was really just heavy focused. And City of Heroes became a huge part of what I was doing. I was, spending way too much time online. Doing long nights and marathon sessions. And that was something that when that game ended, when I first heard the news, I'm like, this has got to be bull. I'm like, and it just completely, I was just, it just was crippling because my gaming had backed off a little bit because all the craziness going on, but I still would hop on, play a couple, missions, do a little bit, hang out, fly. I used to fly around the cities a lot just to, because I enjoyed the graphics of being the guy I was flying. Most of my heroes flew because that was cool. If you're going to be a hero, you're going to fly. The running and the jumping, that was neat. Teleportation, fine. But for me, it was always that flight. That kind of was a neat thing. So when I lost City of Heroes, man, I was like, I don't know. And I jumped on Champions. I started playing, a little bit of Champions, trying different characters, using the free play. And Champions is a good, solid game. It's a really it has this classic role-playing game feel to it, where you have your character, you have your powers, and then you augmenting your character with belts and bracelets and helm and various things like that, increasing your personal character stats, and it just has that classic role-playing feel to it, but it feels different than City of Heroes, because it is a different game. And it's that something about with me, with when I'm playing Champions, I'm like, this is a good game, this is a fun game, but it's not City of Heroes. And it's always that comparison. So I've actually had to step away from Champions because I'm kind of turning myself sour against it because I'm so angry that I lost City of Heroes. So right now I'm not even playing Champions just because it's a fun game. It was a neat game, but every time I play it, I get angry that City of Heroes is canceled. So I'm trying to find other avenues and other areas going right now.
Have you tried DCs?
Well, I haven't tried the free-to-play DC, and the reason I haven't was when City of Heroes was ending, I told myself, I'm not going to be only DC. I'm going to do something other than DC. I got my DC comics.
But it's free.
I got my DC movies. I got my, I'm like, I need something that's non-DC. So I'm avoiding it just simply because of that. Now, every time I've ever played it, it's been a fun game. So it's something I may end up going to just to get a game in my, my life. But right now, I'm trying to find something that's not DC. That's, and I'm actually even looking at non-superhero related right now. I'm starting to try to figure out something that's a non-superhero related game, and I'm starting to do some research.
Star Wars is fantastic. The Old Republic. That was one when it came out. That was another one that I got on to the beta. And got to play a little bit before it actually launched. And then when it launched, I ended up playing it. And I got all the way to a level 50. Each character type has its own story. Now, there's some missions that overlap, obviously, because you're going to be on some of the same planets. So, naturally, things that are happening to the civilian population on those planets, you're going to get involved in. But each character type and each character class has a full story that goes all the way to level 50, with multiple chapters and an end game. So I'm really digging that aspect of it. They also introduced a legacy system into it, where your characters now, if I get a character to level 50, there will be a certain inherited part of their power set that goes to all of the other characters, whether they're good, they're bad. Because you can play as Sith, you can play as smugglers, you can play, good or bad, light or dark. Throughout your story arc, there's morality choices that you make that push you either more to the light side or the dark side. So you can be playing on the side of the rebellion and be turning to the dark side of the Force.
Nice.
Or, you can be on the Sith side and be turning to the light side. So it's a very interesting thing where your morality choice is either you're more light or more dark within the storyline. And there's a physical reflection of those choices. So if you're a Sith, you'll actually, not if you're a Sith, if you are like a good character, like let's say you're a good Jedi, but you're slowly turning to the dark side, there is a physical, you can turn it on or off, but there's a physical representation of that's slowly manifesting itself on you. When like you're in cutscenes, you'll actually see that, oh my gosh, this person's going to the dark side. Nice. It's really cool. So for anybody that's a Star Wars geek out there, and this isn't the one's free to play, you can go and jump in and start playing the Star Wars, and I really enjoy it. It's a really good game system. Champions. I jumped on Champions when it first came out, and I did the lifetime on it instead of doing the monthly. It was before they did free to play. It was before they. Yeah. Wouldn't you know it? Like you do lifetime in this thing. What happens? They go free to play.
Well, I actually was looking at doing lifetime. Mm-hmm. And just I jumped on the free to play just to get a groove of it, and I'm like, if I enjoy this game, I'm gonna probably do lifetime just because I wanted the full spectrum. There's a lot of the free to play is cool. You're getting enough of a gameplay that you get a good understanding of it, but if you do that lifetime, you do get a lot of stuff open. And I was looking at some of the stuff that opens. I'm like, man, yeah, I want that, I want that, I want that. So I'm like, all this stuff. I'm like, it'd be worth it for me to do that, but it's just. Again, it's weird. I enjoy the game, but I don't enjoy the game because I'm still angry about City of Heroes. I need some time away from that. I think you
got to tell yourself though.
The game I'm playing the most, Sean, is Minesweeper.
That's funny.
It's something I was sitting there. I was just like,
It's a good
What
game.
is Minesweeper? I never knew what Minesweeper was, and then I started playing it, and now I'm like addicted to it. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm cheering, and I'm cheering for Minesweeper. Okay, so I am desperate for a game.
Just tell yourself, though, it's not Champion's fault that...
I know.
And it is actually the same development studio, Cryptic,
Yeah.
that originally created City of Heroes.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of them are the actual part of the... I'm not going to pretend that I know the behind the scenes, how much of them are the actual team. But I do know that when that whole thing happened with NCSoft and all that, I know that Cryptic, they did that and the Star Trek Online. I like Star Trek Online, too. That took a lot of flack when it came out. And that's another free-to-play. And with you being a Star Trek fan, you might want to give that one a shot, because that's another free-to-play.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that. Like, you actually get your own starship, and you can customize it along the way. You can create your own crew. Like, when you recruit crew members, you can give them names, customize their appearance and stuff like that. But you also, like in any role-playing game, not only are you building your character, you're building your crew members, and they're your away team as well. Like, you can designate members for the starship crew, members for the away team. They can be mixed and matched. And obviously you want to equip them in a way where they're going to be beneficial in both spectrums, both places. And it's really cool. Like, I like the spaceship combat in Star Trek. I think it's a cool game system. And it's free to play. So it's a good... I mean, if you don't... You can try it, and if it's not your cup of tea, you're at like a no risk, you know, which I do like that in the free to play format now. What they do, for any of you that know with these MMOs with free to play, they've developed an economy system where you can either still continue to pay a monthly fee and then you get all access to all of the download packs and things like that that go along with the game. And they also give you a monthly allowance of their credits. Their in-game economy there's objects and things that you can buy to soup up your character, to soup up your ships, to, you know, help you and enhance your game experience, that you're given a monthly allowance of if you pay the monthly fee. If you don't, you can like PayPal a certain amount of money and actually buy those credits yourself and buy things through the in-game economy while doing the free-to-play. So you could say, for example, for December, I'm not going to buy anything in this game because I just don't have it in my budget, and you can play for free, completely free. But then you can say in January, you know what, I've been dying to have this, so I'm not going to pay the monthly fee, but I'm going to buy these things to use in-game. And then you can feel comfortable saying, like, you know, then maybe February I'm going to take the month off of this and play something else. So that's where the free-to-play, I think, is good for players. It gives you a little bit more flexibility, not having to say that's the only game I play this month. You know, you can kind of give yourself some options. But I like that MMO system now. I think we're going to be seeing more and more of those games going that way. Because it seems like a game lasts a certain amount of time now with that monthly subscription fee. And it's become more and more popular to give people the free-to-play. Secret World is another one that I tried out. And I really liked it. And that one's completely non-superhero based.
What is that?
Secret World, the whole premise behind it is it's more of a real-world game. They don't have a traditional leveling system. Like, you create a character from, like, for example, the Templars, or for this triad, like a Chinese triad. And you can create your character from, like, the ground up from 3 different character classes. And the idea is you're playing on a real-world Earth, but there's this secret world of supernatural mystery and things like that that's happening all over the place, where it's these 3 character classes against each other for world dominance. And the general public isn't necessarily aware of it, but you'll go to real-world locations through this like central supernatural hub. You'll travel to London, you'll travel to Egypt, you'll travel to all these just places around the world, and it's very real-world setting. You'll fight zombies, you'll fight all different kinds of demons and supernatural monsters and stuff like that. You'll encounter real people that are the resistance against some of these things. And you can choose to just follow your main story, or you can do side missions along the way, which have their own little story arcs and lead to further missions, helping out in certain towns and things like that. Your leveling system in that, you don't go like level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4 in most. What ends up happening is the more you play, you unlock the ability to enhance your character's abilities. Like, you can completely decide what kind of character you want to be and then change it on the fly. So, like, I started off with guns. Just double guns, for example, just to have them. But then I added a magic component. So now I've got this chaos magic that I can do. and I train those, but I can decide if I'm like, okay, I've had enough of the double guns. I want to start using more of a heavy-duty long-range weapon, or I want to get into martial arts. So I can start training my character randomly just in martial arts because I've decided I've had enough of this. I want to now start training him in martial arts. There's an advantage of sticking to a power set because the more you unlock for that character as you progress, as you defeat more villains. So you're getting experience points along the way like you do in a traditional role-playing game, but the experience points are going towards giving you these specialization points that you can spend to upgrade your character as you see fit with complete flexibility. There's like a power wheel. And you can stick to one area where there's an advantage of unlocking higher and stronger powers, or you can experiment with combining different power sets to develop a play style that you like. So it's really unique and different. And if you're looking for something that's like out of the ordinary, it's a really good game with a good story. And they just went free to play. You have to pay, I think, still for the initial game. But it's, now PC games are all, at this point with how long it's been out, it's like, I think it's like $20 and you're like in the game and they give you 30 days free, of the paid version of it, just like the traditional ones do. And then if you can go then free to play afterwards if you'd like. It's a worthwhile choice. Like, I really like it. It's made by Funcom, who's done like Longest Journey and stuff like that. And they're a game company I watched. They also did the Age of Conan game that came out. So they have MMO experience as well as gaming experience in general. I mean, with just great storytelling. I really like the story of it. So I'm in the place right now where I'm playing. The game I'm playing right now is not an MMO, the one I'm really heavily into, but I find myself when I take a break from that, I'm either going to Secret World right now or Star Wars. Those are the two that really seem to have my focus right now. And Star Wars, I pay the monthly fee. Secret World, I don't right now. I mean, I'm probably going to flip-flop between the two. As, like 1 month I might pay for Secret World and really focus on that game. Then another month I'll pay for Star Wars and really focus on that game, just because I want to be able to get the stuff from the in-game economy. But the game I'm really playing that I've got a lot of love for is Assassin's Creed 3.
Yeah.
I cannot... It's one of those sandbox games like Grand Theft Auto. Do you know anything about this game? I mean, have you heard about it? Or because this one I think you'd really dig.
You're an assassin killing people.
Well, yeah, but it's not. It's really not that simple. You play this guy, Desmond Miles. And it's the third game in the series, but it's the third labeled game in the series. But 2 had a number of side story games that, continued the events of 2. So this is really, it's either the 4th game or the 5th game. It might be the 6th game, actually. It's irrelevant. What happened was, with 1, you played as Altair. You were Desmond, and you went back into his past. His family has this DNA link of a line of assassins. The assassins have protected the world from the Templars, who are trying to find these religious magical artifacts, and the idea is they're both struggling for power. The assassins' philosophy is to keep the world kind of on the right path, to keep the Templars from taking over and ruling it. Their job is really to stop the Templars at all costs, because the Templars want to take over everything. With game number 3, the premise is the world is about to end. And unless you get a hold of these magical artifacts and find a way to divert the ending of the world, everybody's done. And nobody knows this. So it's like you're part of this underground society that knows what is coming. It kind of fits the whole Mayan calendar end of... Yeah. It's not based on the Mayan calendar, but it's that kind of premise right now. So you're trying to stop the end of days, as they would be. Desmond has this DNA link to these assassins. And what happens is, with the first game, because he lived through the life of Altair, you as the character play as Desmond jumping into the life of Altair. When you do the sequences set in modern day, he now has Altair's assassin's abilities. In the second game, he played as Enzio. So you were in Italy during the time of Leonardo da Vinci, for example. So you're running around through the streets of Italy, and you are actually immersed in a historical fiction where there's characters that did live during that time, but then there's also events that didn't happen during that time, because they're taking fiction license with it. It's kind of cool because you feel like you're running through, ancient history. So you get Enzio's abilities then in present day. You kick into Assassin's Creed 3. Now we're in colonial times. George Washington, Ben Franklin, Sam Adams, people like that. you're running through history. The Templars are the Redcoats.
Oh, okay.
So it's great because now you've played all these games where they've been set in Italy in the past, which was great. Now it's just got a whole new twist being set in colonial times. So the gameplay mechanics have changed a little bit to match the fact that you're playing in colonial times. You are able to do things like be a part of the Boston Tea Party, for example. You actually kick off the chain of events that lend that to happen. You're actually throwing, like, there's one point in time where you're throwing crates off the side of the ship. There's a sailing mechanic in it where you get a ship and you start sailing it, and you will go on missions where you are out to sea, and you can outfit your ship, upgrade your ship for those missions. It's one of the sandbox games like Grand Theft Auto where you've got a main story that you're following. You can divert off it and do all these other things to affect the world around you. Like there's a big hunting sequence to the whole thing where you can go into the woods and you learn how to hunt. You can join a hunting society, and when you join the hunting society, they will send you on special missions to go after, like, here's one point where you have to go after characters like Bigfoot, for example, and stuff like that. But you also, in the game, you'll have to search down a certain cougar, and you have to use your skills of tracking to find the cougar's tracks, find its eventual location, and obviously then to kill and skin it. So it has an economy in it where you can develop your homestead. You have a homestead that you can develop where you can, if you do missions to help certain people out, they're looking for refuge, and when they come to your homestead, they bring their skill set, which opens up things like an inn that wasn't there before, or a farmland that wasn't there before, which adds to your homestead's economy. So it's a very rich, very deep, very involved world with a deep story. And the story for me is always the immersion. This story of, in modern day, Desmond going through to the past to try and find clues to find these magical artifacts in order to save present day. So keep in mind, you're in this colonial time, living this life in colonial time with an end game of, I've got to find the right magical artifacts. And in order to do that, I have to retrace the steps of this assassin who is in my DNA bloodline to find out where this thing was hidden. So then we can use it in modern day to save the world. So that's the premise of the game, which is neat. It's not just the twist of playing like randomly in colonial times. You've got a purpose for being there, for living this life, to try and connect your DNA sequence to his 100%, so you can pull that stuff to present day. So it's a neat story twist. You see the label and you say to yourself, well, it's just an assassin going around killing people. No, it's not that. Yeah, there's a lot of that, but that's not. There's the whole hook is just like amazing in the whole thing. I really like, I've got it on the computer and I get it through my Steam account, and I have a Steam account and Origin account. I'm very into PC gaming now, and I play some games on my iPad too, which I'm really digging, but that tends to be my, just because a lot of things you were mentioning before, time wise, I just don't, I don't have time for a lot of console games. So I end up playing like, a big hit usually at a time on my PC, and I'm finding that I'm just very, very satisfied. This Assassin's Creed game, though, I cannot recommend it highly enough as being one of those games that I really enjoyed. It has everything that I like about the MMOs with the great story that I like. So that's my big game I'm playing right now, and aside from that, I'm playing the Secret World game that I mentioned to you, and Star Wars. I'm playing them a little bit more casually right now, though, because I'm doing the free-to-play on those, because every time I'm like, when I log off here later, I'm going to probably, after I edit the show, go play a little Assassin's Creed. Just because I want to go run around in there. I love the hunting mechanic. It's really great because there's different, everything from elk to raccoons to bunnies.
Go after the bunnies!
But they're also, like, you'll come across, like, a bush, and you can use your skill set there to discover what, like, animal was there. Like, it'll say, like, a deer recently was eating here or something like that, and you'll be able to use your skill set then to track down that particular deer and hunt it. So that's like nothing to do with the story. It's just there because you can. And I like that. I like it. It makes it feel like a living, breathing world. And so it's a game that I'm really, really digging. And it connects to like a Ubisoft account where you can unlock certain points for like competing certain sequences in the game. And it unlocks things that, like Enzio's outfit from the other Assassin's Creed games, you can unlock that as an unlockable. After you don't pay anything to do this, It's just part of being a part of your Ubisoft account that you earn these points towards that. And I get geeky at that kind of stuff too. I like achievements and things. They have that in my Steam account where you get achievements. I like seeing those things little pop up. So I don't know. I get into the whole thing. It's just a good game. So that's one I'd recommend as another game to play. But there's a lot of options out there for you to do gaming wise if you want to stay away from, like, you kind of want to divert from the superhero genre for a while. I too love the DC Universe game. I got a character all the way to level 30 was the max out on it, and I got a character to that. I really enjoyed the experience. For a DC fan, it's really geeky to do it. So for anybody out there listening, I DC Universe on the line. I've got characters. I got a character on there. I actually got 3 characters on there. One of them I got all the way to the 30 end game. And that's usually what ends up happening to me with MMOs, though. I get to the level 30 part, and then I end up playing casually. From time to time, I'll go, I kind of want to play that, so I'll go play it for a little bit. But I like the story. Once I get to the story end game, it's harder for me to go back to the game again because I want to try something. Like you, I want to try something new. I want to play something new. So Assassin's Creed's kind of my something new right now. Since it came out for the PC, I've been very into it. I'm into the story. I want to get to the end. I want to see what's going to happen to Desmond Miles. And it's good writing in the game that it makes me, I'm really into, like, finding out what happens to him. I love the whole DNA in the past thing. It kind of fits what I liked with Doctor Who and Highlander and stuff like that. The idea that this character is able to go back to past lives, so to speak. And it's not really his past life. It's a DNA sequence that is, tied into his family. But I like that twist. It's something a little different than your Highlander and stuff like that. But it fits into that genre, which I know you geeked out of that kind of stuff. It's a cool game.
Yeah, yeah. And see, the thing with me and City of Heroes, with the 50, I got multiple characters up to 50, and it was fun for me because once I got the one, I changed over to another character set, and I was just playing through that way, and a lot of similar gameplay, but there was still a little bit difference in how I was handling it. Whether I was playing my tanker or my blaster, stalker, or whatnot. That's the thing I need. It's that I don't know that Secret World sounds really cool. I may do some lookup into that, but I don't know. I miss City of Heroes. I miss just that world where I could just hang out and not do a mission, and maybe beat up a randomly walking down the street bad guy, or the trick-or-treating event. I used to love trick-or-treating in City of Heroes because they would do a thing where you would go and you'd knock on a door and you'd either get a treat where they give you something or you get a trick and bad guys would attack you. And it was just a fun thing. You used to do that, and you'd get a group of people together. You get a trick-or-treat party. You'd all go out and you'd start, and it was just hanging out, laughing, and the winter events where you can go skiing. They built a ski lodge. And they have really cool ice, the physics of ice and sliding and skiing. So you'd actually go up there and your character's skiing down this side of a mountain, and those little goofy stuff like that I used to like. Those little extra, like you're talking about the hunting. Those were kind of the stuff that I really liked about City of Heroes, was the side stuff, the little extra things I could do. So I don't know. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a world to immerse myself in. But then as I say that, I'm like, well, Jim, just immerse yourself in the real world. But you know what? It's funner to fly. It's funner to be able to shoot laser beams out of your eyes than to, watch the news or watch a TV show or something. I need that escape. I need that where I just turn off my brain and I don't think about the real world.
Well, it's why we read comics and stuff like that, though. It's escapism. I mean, that's what I enjoy about gaming. I mean, it's not an escape from the real world. I love hanging out with my wife and going hiking and doing all that kinds of fun stuff, too. But there's that part of me that, I want to get immersed into a story and playing them. I've loved interactive fiction since the old days of Infocom, which were the text-based ones where you were playing a novel. I don't know, did you play any of those as a kid?
Not really. Yeah, I did more, I never really got too heavy into those, but those were kind of neat those, the kind of like the create your own story type of books I used to read when I was a real little kid. I like that kind of picking and choosing the way it went. So when role playing games and that type of universes started opening themselves up, that's really was a big draw for me and all of us, my whole family, our friends. We were heavy into the whole role playing lifestyle, whole role playing gaming. My brother Bill still games to this day, and his kids now game with him, and he's got a really they do different variations on different games, and it's still a neat concept because you're personalizing, you're shaking this world and you're personalizing it. You're developing it beyond just the pages in front of you. And I think that is what I always wanted out of the game. And I'm yet to have a perfect version of that, but that I think is my end goal. I'd love to find just that world that I could, you could immerse yourself in, and that could be part of. It's like you're living, and you're living a second life, and there's that game Second Life, which I never really got into. I never really tried it because, again, it wasn't superheroes. It wasn't anything big explosions or anything like that. It was just a person living a second life. So I don't know. That's something I was wondering about, and I was thinking maybe trying that, going that, but I don't know.
I'd love to do, and it's hard to do. I'd love to do like a gaming night, like an MMO night, where you just kind of like it's whether it's Secret World or something else, or Champions or DC or whatever. Just do a one night a week where you play that MMO with a group.
Yeah, I would love to do that.
It's hard to coordinate that. We've tried that before. It's sometimes hard to coordinate that, but I would love to join into something like that because that would make an MMO. That to me is what you're supposed to do in an MMO. I'm bad at it.
Yeah.
And when I say I'm bad at it, I'm bad at getting, because usually the way I play MMOs, I pop on and off. Now, I'm capable of setting a set night to do that. And I would love that, and I think it's a way to do it, where you take a character and say, this character is only going to be used for the gaming night. So we all stay roughly around the same developmental level. And you just make that one your, like, Wednesday night, gaming night character. Because all these games have those events that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, Secret World just had a Halloween event. That was really cool. They set up this whole Halloween mystery, and you had to go to this fortune-telling lady, and she gave you clues, and the clues are so rich that you like have to either ask people in game, or you have to like look at books in the game. You actually have to do research to find like where you're supposed to go next. They don't like just tell you on the map this is where you're supposed to go. Now, when you uncover the research. It may be even as simple as looking at a phone book to find addresses. Once you find that address, it shows up on your map.
Okay.
So I like that you don't instantly have the knowledge, but like the ways to find the knowledge is logical.
Yeah, and it's not impossible.
No, it's not. Well, and then there's, if you're really stuck, you just say, hey, what do you do here? And there's tons of people that are going to help you. And online now, the game has a browser built into it where you can actually do Google searches in-game.
Really?
Yeah, and it's real Google searches. So you actually can use the internet to help you solve certain things without leaving the game engine, which I think is kind of a neat little thing to the whole, because it adds to this whole idea that you're living a secret life in the world, so it really is real world grounded. It's a cool little game. It's one that it's not, I don't think it's getting enough notice for how cool it is, but it always seems to be well attended when I play. There's people in it. So I'm really digging it because it's a little different. It reminds me of when City of Heroes, when I first started playing it, what I liked about it was, and kind of to back up what you were saying, it was unique. It was, when it came out, there was nothing else like it that was on the market. Secret World's kind of like that. They're trying something a little different with the MMO genre. And I really kind of like it for that reason. I like the story. I like the real world setting. I like that it's not fantasy, for a change. In the sense that it is a little bit more grounded in reality, even those demons and monsters and stuff. But you're set in like a more of a real, when you can go to London and places like that, which you can't really do in most games. That's kind of a neat little twist for me. I quite like that. So it's a fun. If you try it, let me know, because I would love to hook up with you and play that game with you, or any game that you're trying. Because I think for MMOs, that's one of the advantages, to be able to play with other people. I'm horrid with it. I used to be really good at it, but, it is with the podcast and with school and stuff like that. I don't always, and that's why I think with those things, you really need to almost set a set gaming night. I think that's probably why it works for your family when they do it. I'm sure they have a set gaming night, or they schedule a gaming night where they say, hey, this is the night we're all going to sit down as a family, we're going to do an RPG together. And they sit down and do that together. I would love that, because I love the old tabletop RPGs and that kind of stuff. I would love to do that. You need to have a gaming night for that, though, where you get enough people and you sit down and say, hey, we're going to do this together. Because I love Dungeons and Dragons and things like that. I haven't played in years because, it's hard to find people to play. But I would love to do that kind of stuff because I just think it's fun gameplay. It's fun to be kind of immersed into those worlds and to share that experience with somebody else. I think that's why MMOs are so successful, because they take that concept and make it possible worldwide. And I want to get better with the social aspect of those games, because that's the part I'm really not good at. I get so immersed into the story that I do the solo missions, but I'm not as good with the multiplayer stuff. And I've got to get better with that, of opening myself up to asking. I will jump into other people's requests. Like if somebody says to me, hey, I need help here, I jump on that immediately. But if I have a multiplayer mission, I'll sit down and I don't ask people to help me, if that makes sense.
Yes. Oh, yeah, definitely.
I'm horrid at that. I'm not antisocial. I love helping other people. Like if somebody pops up and says, hey, man, I'm stuck on this, like with the Halloween mission I was mentioning, I didn't ask anybody for help on my end. I went online and found the clues myself. But when somebody else needed help, I went to their location, I'm guiding them to where it's at and that type of stuff. So I love that social aspect. I'm like, okay, I can help out somebody else. This is fun. And we ended up doing a couple of their missions together. I had a blast with that. I've got to get better at asking people to join into mine, because I think that would make me more immersed into the world. That's the part where I'm not good at asking others to join me. I'm good at helping others when they ask. And that's the part where I think I'm a little broken with how I play MMOs.
That was with me in City of Heroes. When I first started, I wasn't doing that. Then I started getting, into other super groups, and I started actually having more interaction, and I was doing more recruiting, and I was more out there. I think those were my heyday of the game. And then, I kind of, when I tailored back, I was doing more solo stuff. So when I'm jumping into the new games, I'm once again back into that initial, okay, just me. I want to learn how to play the game before I start interacting with people. And I think part of the learning how to play the game is the interaction with people. And I just got to go out there and just say, hey, looking for a team up? Anybody want to help out? Hey, who's doing what? And I got to figure out the social aspect of it. How do you ask people, hey, let's do something? Or how do you, because I always don't want to seem like I'm that creepy, weird guy, asking people, will you be my friend? I don't want to be that guy. So there's a balance.
I also don't want to be the dolt. When I'm playing solo, I get very confident in my own abilities. But then when you team up with people, there's people who I think are really experts at playing socially with other people in MMOs and games like that. And they know how to get squads together and react like a squad. I'm not as much of an online gamer, and I want to get better at it because I think I would really enjoy it. Because obviously with what we do here, I love social interaction. I love the chatting. I think it'd be fun to do that. But I'm not good at what is my role in the squad? I almost need somebody who, with an online shooter or with something like that, or with an MMO or whatever, who wouldn't be afraid to start, giving me some tips on, hey, when you're teamed up in your character's role, this is what you should be doing. Because I know how to keep myself surviving, but a lot of the skills and tricks that you do to keep yourself as a solo gamer surviving on an MMO are counterintuitive to a group.
Yeah.
And to the point where you'll get people in the group killed because you're just looking out for you instead of the group. So that's the part where I'm not as confident. When I join into a team, I'm not always aware of what my character archetype should be doing to keep everybody else alive. And that's the part that, I think I need help with. And I would love to know more about how to make that work. Because I love the story. I love the solo gaming. I actually love sometimes the challenge of soloing a mission you're not supposed to be able to solo. Yeah. Because, I usually play, the stealth characters that, will, go into the shadows and hard to see. And I like that gameplay style. I like that in Champions. Like Champions, I've got just like I did in City of Heroes, I have a character that'll go stealth, and I like that kind of stuff. And they've got vehicles, and I want to shout out Champions because they've got vehicles and they've got hideouts and a lot of the stuff that I really want in a superhero game. They've got a lot of diverse storytelling in there, and each city has its own little missions, and they keep adding more content to it. So I don't want anyone listening to think that I don't like Champions. I really do like Champions, and I revisit Champions regularly. I've played a lot of Champions, and I stepped away for a while just because I was trying new things, not because Champions was bad. It was just because I'd played a lot of it, and I just need a little break. I've started going back in now. They've got vehicles. Mm-hmm. Like I've got Norge, which is a Hawkman style character that I've been working on now. He's like level 20. I just bought a Hawk stealth ship.
Oh, nice.
And you can actually use the ship in the city. Like when you've got the enemies that are like, down there ready to attack somebody and, commit a crime. You can actually take the ship down and start using the weapons on the ship to take down the enemies in the streets and stuff.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's really, which is really cool with a stealth ship because they don't see you coming, which is what you would expect. But I like the hideout that you can get a hideout and there's like 7 or 8 different types of hideouts that you can grab.
Yeah, it's as I said, I enjoyed the game, and I'm right now the most active player I have is a Fire Blaster, which was my first character in City of Heroes. That's my fighting style. I'm the support fire, the distance range attack. I always, that's kind of like my best, mindset and how my gameplay. And so it's a neat, character and a neat concept. So I was enjoying that, but it's just, I don't know. Sometimes I sit there and I get angry because I start thinking of this flame guy, and I start thinking of Shadow's Fire, who is my City of Heroes, and I get angry again. I'm like, no.
Well, you got to
be enjoying yourself.
Be fair to the game though, because you got to remember that came out when City of Heroes was running strong.
Yeah.
So one of the things I actually like about Champions that I think works about it is, first of all, it uses the Champions role-playing system as its framework, which is an actual tabletop role-playing game. And then they've obviously tweaked it to make it an MMO and stuff like that. But one of the things you got to remember is it came out when City of Heroes was running, and it had to distinguish itself as being different from City of Heroes. So some of the things like the hideouts and stuff like that you have, and the vehicles, you didn't have in City of Heroes. And I like that part of it. I like that there's certain things that they're doing in there that are a little different. You have an arch nemesis in this, which you didn't have in City of Heroes.
Right.
And
I don't think I've created that yet.
Yeah. None of those things are knocks on City of Heroes. It's what I liked about Champions. They were taking a look at City of Heroes and saying, how do we distinguish ourselves? How do we make ourselves something that's accessible for players who are playing City of Heroes, where they don't feel like they're playing City of Heroes light?
Yeah.
They're playing something unique, and it's a different system. And they've done that I think they've done that very well with Champions. Champions distinguishes itself nicely. I'm with you. I love City of Heroes, and for that to close down, it was baffling to me. I would love to know what behind the scenes. I mean, obviously it's money that did that, but it was a successful, well-attended game, so I don't get it. It was just one of those where I think they wanted to take down that development studio, and that's what ended up happening. The Paragon studio went down, and they were looking at that as an overhead thing.
Yeah.
And it's too bad they didn't try to make a City of Heroes 2. It seems baffling to me that you wouldn't take a game like that and do, because that was on the slate for the longest time, and then it just fizzled. And go ahead.
Oh, well, according to the internet gossip and the internet forum discussions and whatnot, the developers had no idea this was coming. They completely got kneecapped. They were working on City of Heroes 2. They were developing it, and I think they were close to going to beta on it when all of a sudden they came in and just, you're done. Everybody go home. You're laid off. No notice, no warning, no nothing. And it just, that right there was something that really angered me when I'm reading that. And again, I'm reading online, so you're not 100% certain how much is real, how much is fiction, what's the truth. And I still try to find out, see what I can see. And if I could ever find out that the people who are in Paragon Studios are now with this game, I'd jump on that game in a heartbeat.
I would too.
Just because those developers really actually cared about the game. They cared about the community. It wasn't just money to them. You could tell that they were fans of the game. They were fans of the genre. They were fans of this. So, and it's that passion that I want. I do see a lot of that passion in Champions. I don't want to come across like I'm knocking Champions. Champions is a good, solid game, and it's just my personal prejudice is my anger, which is preventing me from really deeply enjoying it. There's something Champions does really nicely in the character building. You know, the look of your character, just the variations and the tweaks. Now, I'm not that creative. I admit that. It takes me a while of tweaking to get a good character looking. With Champions, right from the get-go, I'm sitting there, you've got so many options. I'm like, wow. I literally, the first time I created a character, I spent probably over an hour just building the look of it. And if you look at the character, you'll say, Jim, you spent an hour building that? What are you, nuts? Because it's not that good.
I'm the same way.
But it was like, oh, wow, look at this option, look at this option. And finally I got to the point where I was like the dog chasing the car, where you're going crazy trying to chase the car and you never catch the car. And finally I was like, I just got to get done. I got to be done. And I finished the character, but there was just so many options on the design. And it is a really cool game. I just... I can't play it right now, and hopefully I'll be able to get back onto it. I haven't completely given up on it, and it's still out there, so who knows? I may jump on it again and play a little bit more, and maybe 2013 play some of that, maybe do some of that Secret World. There's a couple options out there for me now.
Secret World has a plastic surgeon and a barber. I've been to both. For a lot of what you're saying, I try to create an in-game avatar, a character that kind of represents me on some level. I'm horrid with it, and then I get critical of it and stuff like that. I love that about the games, though. I love that about the MMO is the customization, because to me that's what a role-playing game should be. Whether you're actually creating yourself or this character that you've got envisioned in your head, diving into an MMO, to an RPG world, not just an MMO, any RPG world, you want to feel like you're creating a character that's living and breathing, and that as they're progressing through levels, they're living a life. They're becoming stronger. And I love that about MMOs. I love that about, fantasy literature. What's one of the best things about reading fantasy literature? It's going on that journey, that beginning to the end, and feeling like when you're done, you've been through something epic. Role-playing games have that. A quick shout out to the Old Republic again for the Star Wars game. It's made by BioWare, and BioWare did the Knights of the Old Republic games, particularly the first one. And this game references the lore of that. You don't have to have played those to appreciate it, but you'll come across things that were in that game years later, like crashed ships and things like that on certain planets where they crashed in the Knights of the Old Republic. You can actually go see the wreckage in the Old Republic, which is really kind of neat. And the game gives you that lore in it. Like when you go to that area, you can actually then go into your, Datacron, and you can kind of take over, your computer in the game, and you can find that. The other thing I really like at Star Wars is they have, and that's why I'm changing myself from Datacrons. They have these Datacrons that you can find. They beef up the stats of your character every time you find one. There's usually at least 5 or 6 on a planet. I'm just throwing that number randomly out there. But, you have to do crazy things like climb along cliff edges, on tops of areas of ships that you didn't think before you could go to. You somehow get there through this weird crack in the wall or something that, you can... you'll, travel for, a mile in the game to get to this Datacron. But when you find it, it beefs up the stats of your character, but also gives you some rich lore and history from the Star Wars Expanded Universe that ties into things like the Dark Horse comics and the novels, for example. They did their homework for this game. So for anyone that's a Star Wars junkie that, really likes that stuff, it's worth a try to check that out. The Datacrons are really cool to look for. There's, YouTube videos that tell you, how to begin the path of finding them. Because I'm adult. I can't use... there's, been, a couple of them where I've come across them on my own through exploring. But I don't know how... my hat's off to any of these people that, have actually created the videos showing you how to find them. Because I don't know what would lead you to go to some of the places they've went in the game. So they're wait, you, saw that crack and you thought to yourself, maybe I should follow this. And how did that get you from... Because you had to do, this crazy jumping maneuver to get to this thing. I'm like, how did you know that would lead you all the way over here, which is on the other side of the map? And we're talking, when I say the other side of the map, it's the other side of a planet in the game. Like, I don't know what would lead you to go down that path. That amazes me that people have that sense of exploration in MMO to find those things. I love going through it. I love following the path that they went through, but I'm admittedly not the one to discover it myself. I don't know how they do it, but I really enjoy tracing those steps and seeing what that's like. That's a cool aspect of the game as well. And it has vehicles. You have a ship that you eventually get in all classes, and the ship is different depending on the class that you're in, but you can upgrade that ship along the way. And your crew, your supporting cast that you develop relationships with in the game, depending on your conversations with them and how well you help them, they travel with you. So you wind up having, it's like Star Wars, where you have, your smuggler, you have your Jedi, you have, these robots and things that travel with you, and you build relationships with them along the way. That is really interesting and cool. And some of them are good, and some of them are bad. Some of them are influenced by you. Some of them are not. And you have to find ways to reach them. It's very different encountering a Republic military person and a Jedi, for example. The conversations that you have with them and the way you need to respond to them in order to gain their influence is going to be very different. You can build relationships. For example, you can be a Jedi and build a relationship with a fellow Jedi, and then choose whether or not to break Jedi code. And there's ramifications over your choices, which is really cool. I think it's kind of a neat system aspect of the game. So there's a lot of great gaming out there right now. And for me, it usually involves storytelling. It involves being immersed into rich worlds, because I like that kind of thing the same way I do with comics. I like to be immersed. I like to be taken places. And those are the three games for me that I'm playing right now that I'm really digging. Assassin's Creed 3, Secret World, and Star Wars The Old Republic. Those are the ones that are just really, they seem to be grabbing me right now, and I'm really enjoying.
Now, with the Star Wars game, can you talk like a Wookiee?
No.
No?
You can walk like an Egyptian, though, which is surprising in a Star Wars game.
That's something, yeah. I think it'd be kind of neat just to go up to people going, you just type out, and just have people look.
Well, you can't make a Wookiee in the game.
You can't.
Right now. Now, they keep adding new classes as the game goes on. Now, you can make characters of different races within class types.
Yeah.
But there's, like Jedis, there's smugglers, there's, you can join the Republic you can join the Republic or the Imperial military, depending on, or Sith military, I think, is how it works. 'Cause I think, I'm trying to think of storyline time-wise where that fits. I haven't created a military character yet. I want to do that. My alternate character is a smuggler, and I really like playing the smuggler because I've got a little bit of Jedi power because I got my Jedi to 50.
Yeah.
So it's kind of neat to have these powers that a smuggler shouldn't have, but because of the relation, because they're part of the same family, he's a little bit force sensitive, which is kind of cool because it
kind of helps a smuggler.
Yeah, but it fits. It fits the Star Wars mythos, to sit there and say that would be the case. But playing the smuggler, the storyline, and even the comment choices that you have are very different. And your storyline is drastically different because you're on a completely different quest than the Jedi was. So there's a reason to play as a new character. You actually get a brand new story. It is in the same world, so you will then encounter certain events, and you'll have to handle them in the way that a smuggler would, not the way that a Jedi would. And that part I really like. The cool part is with the legacy feature, you also get legacy points. And when you get these legacy points, you can unlock certain things that open up things earlier for your character or enhance the powers of your character in a way that you didn't have the first time through with the other character. Like I got access to speeders quicker, which is great for traveling in the game, because of the legacy system and because of the points where you can purchase. I was able to purchase my speeder much earlier because speeders are very expensive, and training speeders is very expensive in the game economy.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of experience to do that. But when you can use this point system that they have in the game, you're able to unlock it much sooner. That's part of, like with the 3-to-play and the economy, because I paid the monthly fee. I actually had enough points that I was able to unlock speeders earlier, which made the game build for my smuggler a lot more enjoyable really fast. He also has a different companion set. So your conversations and relationships that you're building with companions is very different. And there's a reason and a motivation to build strong relationship with your companions. Because when you unlock them in the legacy system, like when you've built, like by level 50, if you've built a strong relationship with that companion and you've gone to the end game of the companion story, it unlocks things for your legacy characters across the accounts where they have certain benefits and buffs because of the fact that you built that relationship. So everything you're doing in the game for the story is having a positive effect, not just for you, but also for your legacy characters as you're going on. That's where the legacy system's cool, the fact that you make characters that are part of the same family, and you can actually develop your own family tree. So you can decide, like, you know, is this character a brother or a sibling? Is it a child of a character or not? And you can put them in those different roles and build a family tree. So for people that are really into the whole role-playing aspect and say, I would like to take my main character and build a family tree off that character, it's cool. Like, I created 3 brothers. One's a Jedi, one's a smuggler, the other one's a Sith.
Nice.
Yeah, he's the bad egg. And I haven't had a chance to spend a lot of time with the Sith, but after I'm done with working on the smuggler, I want to go to the Sith next because I really want to play a bad guy. But then now there's part of me that wants to go back and play as a Jedi again, but this time I want to make the bad choices. Like, I want him to be a dark, I want him to go to the dark side while playing the good guy.
Okay.
Storyline, because I just want to see what that's like. Because you can do certain things like before where you save people that are trapped in an airlock. You can choose to eject them if you want to. So I want to go through and start doing that stuff.
To your hate.
That's what I want to do. I want to start going and doing that stuff where you're like, if you have the choice to save them or to waste your time if you don't save them, you can eject them and just say, you know what? I want to move on. I want to get to my end game here. Forget these people. They're not important to me. Boom. When you're traveling with a group, what happens is you roll for it. Meaning, like how you do the roll of the dice in the old game, it's whoever's decision winds up with the highest number of points does it. So you can be traveling with 3 people that are doing the light side, but the person with the dark side wins. And you all try to save the person, and they get ejected anyway because the dark side person wins out the roll, which is really cool when you do multiplayer missions in it, that you have that option.
That's actually kind of neat.
They have flashpoint stories. This will be the last thing. I'll end off with this. They have these flashpoint stories, which what they are is it's not just a regular mission, it's a storyline mission where you've got an hour long, they're like task forces from City of Heroes. It's like at least an hour long storyline where you're going through this full rich story with a group. And you've got to have a group in order to complete a flashpoint. It won't work with like a solo situation. And that's where the light side, dark side mix really gets interesting. Because throughout the flashpoint, you could have somebody from the dark side win one role, somebody from the light side win another role, and the storyline will veer off in very different directions depending on the choices that have happened along the way. And the people that you encounter will react to the choices that happened. So they're either really happy to see you or a little miffed with you and your crew when you come in. And I like that. It gives you a real world sense that there's consequences to the actions of the game. And all those flashpoints end with a reward. And the reward is one of those things where one of the people in your crew will get, there's multiple rewards, I should say, along the way, like a certain lightsaber, a certain piece of armor or something. So it's worth doing them over and over again because you may not be the person to get them. It's not something where everybody who played gets it. It's a thing you roll for, if that makes sense. So if like you and I were playing in a crew, you might get it, I might not. So then we might go back through again and I might get it the next time, or I might get something else along the way that I didn't get from the previous time.
Let's be honest, if you and I were doing a mission, you would get the bonus, and then we'd do it again, and then you'd get the bonus again.
But then you can also choose to need or greet it.
Yeah.
Or to just flat out give it to the other person.
Oh.
So like we could sit and say, dude, let's do it again so you get it this time. And either if I win the roll and I get it, I can give it to you, or I can just not do the roll and let you get it. Or I can be greedy and take it, which you can do too. And I like that. That's kind of an interesting in-game economy thing. That's a little real-world aspect. I mean, I wanted us to do an episode like this where we had a chance to talk a little bit about gaming because it's a little bit of geek culture. I'm glad we started off with a little bit of comic chat outside of it. And I hope people are enjoying these shows because it's kind of nice for us to just do one of these once a month-ish where we have a chance to just kind of step out the normal show format and talk about some topics that probably interest our listening audience as much as they influence us. And it's kind of a chance. I think it rounds off the show a little bit. So hope you guys are enjoying these.
Come on, Squeal. Let's pay these Plutonian beam makers a visit.
Once again, supporting us this episode is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Remember, this is the time of the month where you're going to want to be keeping an eye at DCBService.com. As soon as the new year kicks off, they're going to be posting the brand new amazing deals over at DCBService.com, your pre-order source. Over at InStockTrades.com, this is the time, too, they're going to be shifting over their monthly deals on hardcovers and trades, any of the collected editions that you want to get. It's a great time. It's really quick and easy to add up to that $50 where you can get free shipping from InStockTrades.com. It just saves you a little bit more money. So this is the time to kind of check and see those books that you maybe a series that you missed that you wanted to read in collected edition, or maybe 2 or 3 just to get those books to get caught up. So go over and check InStockTrades.com. Do not forget our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434 or drnorge on Skype. We will have voicemails back on our next regular episode. Don't forget to check out RagingBullets.com for news and updates on the show. We are on Twitter, Facebook, Google+. You want to check out our Facebook group. We have a lively Facebook group, and we love the community of people that post regularly in our Facebook group. I post news all the time to Twitter through our website, RagingBullets.com, so make sure to check out those ways to find out about show news and things that are coming up. You can also find me on gaming social networks like Steam and Origin and stuff like that, so if you have games on there, please make sure to look for me. There's links on our show website to that, and I would certainly love to add any new friends onto any of the games that we have in common that we're playing. It's always fun to play with people who are fellow listeners of the show or people that, have the same interests as me, so we can have some great discussions while we're playing those games. Jim, our next episode, we're going to jump back to Death of the Family. We're doing a multi-part look at a lot of the titles we haven't visited in the Bat family. And some of the ones that we visited back when the Zero issues kicked off, but we haven't had a chance to talk about again, to talk about how the Joker is influencing this world. But we're also going to talk about things like Detective Comics and Batman Inc. and stuff like that over our journey. It's going to be about 2 more episodes. I think it's going to take us to do a full discussion of the whole Bat universe. And I'm really excited to be discussing these books, so we're going to continue that journey with our next episode. So we will see you then.
Bye!
Flying through space and time, 1,000 different lifetimes. Faded for love and flaws and incredibly clear sightlines. Swinging your mace around, such a practical outlook. Helping the JSA and occasionally supporting your own book. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see. Hawkman, your plan and what you do to me. Hawkman. The villains are closing in, be they Thanin Guard or Egyptian, working so hard to thwart you and Hawkgirl's mission. The odds are not on your side, and danger seems to stack up. Things would be so much easier if you would just call for backup. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see your plan and what you do to me. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see.